She wore the ugliest dress she owned on purpose, not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much. That night, a single father who had already given up on love looked at her, and felt something he hadn't felt since his wife died. What neither of them knew was that this one blind date, meant to fail, would change two broken lives forever. Stay till the end, because the reason she dressed ugly will break your heart, and the way he chooses her will heal it. She stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "Let him reject me quickly. I'm tired of hoping." That was the moment her heart decided to protect itself, by pretending it didn't want love anymore. Maya hadn't always dressed this way. Once, she loved soft colors, fitted dresses, and the quiet confidence that came from feeling seen. But after too many dates that ended the same way, men smiling politely, then disappearing once they realized she wasn't easy, exciting, or worth the effort, she learned a cruel lesson. Hope hurts more than rejection. So when her friend insisted on setting her up on a blind date, Maya made a decision. She pulled out an old, shapeless brown dress. No makeup. Hair tied carelessly. Flat shoes that had seen better days. Not ugly because she was ugly, but ugly because she didn't want to be chosen for the wrong reasons. If he likes me like this, she thought, then maybe it's real. Across town, Daniel adjusted his shirt nervously in the restaurant bathroom mirror. He hadn't been on a date in 4 years. Since the night cancer took his wife and left him holding a 3-year-old boy who kept asking when mommy would come back, dating felt like betrayal. And exhaustion, between work, school lunches, bedtime stories, and pretending to be strong for his son, Daniel had forgotten how to be a man someone could fall for. He agreed to the blind date only because his sister begged him. "You deserve happiness too," she said. Daniel didn't believe her. When Maya walked into the cafe, she noticed his eyes immediately, kind, tired, and cautious. He stood up politely, clearly surprised. Not disappointed. Just curious, and that confused her. They sat. Ordered coffee. Awkward silence filled the table. Maya expected the usual. Forced smiles. Polite boredom. But Daniel listened. When she spoke, he didn't interrupt. When she laughed nervously, he smiled gently. When she avoided eye contact, he didn't push. He noticed things no one else ever had. How she folded her hands when she was anxious. How her voice softened when she talked about children. How her eyes carried sadness behind humor. She's different, he thought, not beautiful in the loud way, but in a quiet, grounding way that made him feel safe. When Daniel mentioned his son, expecting the familiar shift, the polite withdrawal, Maya's face changed. "Tell me about him," she said softly, and for the first time in years, Daniel talked about bedtime stories, school drawings, and the fear of not being enough. By the end of the date, neither wanted it to end, which terrified Maya, because this time, it mattered. She almost didn't show up for the second date, because the truth she was hiding could destroy the only real connection she had ever felt. And when he finally saw the real her, she was ready to walk away forever. Maya spent the entire day before their second date pacing her apartment. She opened her closet and stared at her real clothes. Dresses she loved. Shoes that made her feel confident. Her hands trembled. "What if he only likes the version of me that doesn't try?" she whispered, but deep down, she knew the truth was heavier than clothes. She had dressed ugly because she was tired of being chosen and then discarded. Because her past relationships had taught her that beauty attracted attention, but not commitment. So this time, she had tested him, and now the test felt unfair. When she arrived at the park where they agreed to meet, Daniel didn't recognize her at first. She wore a simple blue dress. Hair down. No exaggeration, just herself. Daniel froze, not because she was suddenly hot, but because she looked alive. "You look," he stopped himself. "Happy." Maya swallowed. "I need to tell you something." They sat on a bench as evening light filtered through the trees. Her voice shook as she explained everything. The dress. The fear. The exhaustion. The years of being overlooked unless she performed. "I didn't want to trick you," she said. "I just couldn't survive another disappointment." Daniel was silent, too silent. Maya stood up. "I understand if you're upset." But Daniel reached for her hand. "You didn't dress ugly," he said quietly. "You dressed honest." He told her about his own fears. How he thought no woman would want a man with baggage, grief, and a child who came first. How he showed up expecting rejection too. I didn't fall for your clothes, he said. I fell for the way you listened. Maya cried. Not pretty tears. Real ones. Months passed, she met his son, Noah, slowly and carefully. She learned how love sometimes comes with bedtime routines and tiny hands holding yours during thunderstorms. Daniel learned how to let joy exist without guilt. There were challenges. Old wounds. Insecurities. Moments when fear almost won, but they chose honesty. Every time. On the day Daniel proposed, Maya wore the same brown dress from their first date. This dress gave me you, she smiled, and Daniel kissed her forehead and said, no. Your courage did. Sometimes we hide not because we are weak, but because we've been hurt too many times, and sometimes love doesn't come when we look our best. It comes when we are brave enough to be real. If this story touched you, remember this: the right person doesn't fall for your appearance, they fall for your truth, and that kind of love is worth waiting for. If you want, I can next turn this into a YouTube narration script. Add emotional pauses and voice cues. Create SEO title, description, tags and hashtags, or break it into visual scene prompts for AI videos. More script perfect. I'll extend the script, keeping the same emotional tone, plain long paragraphs, strong hooks, and slow-burning depth so it works for a long YouTube narration, 100+ minutes. Below is continuation script with new hooks, deeper conflict, and emotional payoff. Just when she started believing she belonged in his world, someone from his past returned and reminded her she was never supposed to stay. Maya didn't expect loving a single father to feel this heavy. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't insecurity. It was the quiet understanding that she would never be the center of Daniel's universe, and somehow, she had to learn how to be okay with that. Noah grew attached quickly. He held her hand when crossing the street. He asked if she would read bedtime stories. He once called her a mom by accident and then burst into tears, terrified he had betrayed the memory of the woman who gave him life. Maya held him and cried too, but Daniel struggled. Every step forward felt like stepping away from his wife's memory. Every laugh with Maya came with guilt. And when his late wife's sister showed up one evening, cold, judgmental, and uninvited, the fragile balance shattered. She's moving on too fast, the sister said sharply. Noah isn't ready. Daniel didn't defend Maya. That silence hurt more than any insult ever could. That night, Maya packed a bag. She loved him. But she refused to be a temporary chapter in someone else's unfinished story. She didn't leave because she stopped loving him, she left because she loved herself enough to stop begging to be chosen. Daniel came home to an empty apartment. No shoes by the door. No soft humming in the kitchen. No warmth, only a note: I won't compete with a ghost. I won't force myself into a life that hasn't made space for me yet. When you're ready to choose the living, you'll know where to find me. For the first time since his wife's death, Daniel broke down. He realized something terrifying: grief had protected him, but it had also kept him alone. That night, Noah asked, "Is Maya coming back?" Daniel didn't answer, because he didn't know that he had already lost one woman to death. Now he was about to lose another, by choice, and that was something he could never forgive himself for. Weeks passed. Maya focused on healing. Therapy. Long walks. Journaling truths she had buried for years. She learned that love should feel safe, not conditional. Daniel finally sought help too. Counseling. Conversations he had avoided. He learned that honoring the past didn't mean rejecting the future. One rainy evening, Daniel stood outside Maya's apartment. She opened the door, surprised, and guarded. "I'm not here to ask you to come back," he said. "I'm here to tell you I choose you. Fully. Even if you say no." He spoke about fear. About guilt. About learning that love doesn't replace, it expands. Maya listened quietly, then she asked the hardest question of her life: "And if it gets hard again?" Daniel smiled softly. "Then I'll fight. Not freeze." She didn't marry a perfect man, she married a man who learned how to choose her, every single day. Their wedding was small. No extravagance. No performance. Noah walked Maya down the aisle. Daniel cried openly, and when Maya looked